The Christmas Pig, written by J.K. Rowling, illustrated by Jim Field. Chapter 21, Disposable. Oh no, the shame of it, cried Comb. We're disposable. Not complaining, are you? Said Scissors in a menacing voice. Because at least you're getting a roof over your head. There's plenty that don't. If you'd rather be surplus, it could be arranged. No, whispered Comb, terrified. I wouldn't rather be surplus. Stop your whining then, snapped Scissors. The town they'd just entered was comprised of low wooden buildings, all of which looked drafty and flimsy. A few feeble lanterns lit the snowy streets. Scissors led the group to a hitching post, where he dismounted, tied up all their mounts, and set the battery, the comb, the ruler, and the chopsticks free. Said a cheery voice behind them, and everybody turned around to see a pair of spectacles bouncing out of a building with swing doors that was labeled Saloon. Spectacles was wearing a black Stetson with an L on it and looked far friendlier than any loss adjuster they'd met so far. Good to see you, friends, he cried, beaming, his nose pads flapping like a big mustache. I'm Sheriff Specs. Say Scissors. We heard a rumor that the klaxon went off in Mislade an hour ago. Is it true? It's true, all right, said Scissors. Some things where it shouldn't be. Bless my hinges. That'll mean trouble, said Specs anxiously. He pulled the ragged duster out of thin air, wiped his lenses, then made it magically disappear again while peering more closely at the group. Alrighty, I'll take these folks inside and give them the introduction. Have a shot of lubricant before you head off, Scissors? No time, said Scissors. But you might freeze up, riding back in these conditions. You've got a point, said Scissors, now looking toward the saloon. And you've got too, said the sheriff, roaring heartily at his own joke. Get it? Get it? He looked hopefully around at the group. Nobody laughed. Comb sniffed. Follow me then, folks, said Specs, and he led the way into the saloon. Scissors followed, right behind Jack. It made the back of Jack's neck frickle to hear his sharp points hitting the ground. The bar was lit by a single flickering oil lamp. Moth-eaten velvet curtains hung at the windows, and the wooden floorboards were stained. An old gardening glove was playing a mournful tune on a toy piano in the corner. In the ceiling was another finding hole, and right below it, taking up 2 seats, was an old tin lunchbox. That there's fingers at the piano, said Specs. In fingers, the glove waved her thumb and went back to playing her set tune. And that there's Lunchy sitting neath the finding hole. The lunchbox didn't say anything, but kept staring up at the dark hole in the ceiling, as though she could will a beam of golden light to appear and take her back to the land of the living. Jack couldn't blame her for wanting to leave this gloomy room. He looked around to see whether DP was sitting in one of the shadowy corners, but he wasn't there. Perhaps Jack thought he was asleep in one of the ramshackle houses they'd passed outside. He was wondering how soon he'd be able to sneak out to look, when Specs said, Alrighty then, why don't we all draw up a chair and get cozy? They all sat down. The draft coming through the swing doors was icy cold, and Jack was now doing his best not to shiver. He wished he'd done what the Christmas Pig had suggested back in his bedroom, and bought a hoodie and some shoes, although he wasn't going to tell the pig that. So welcome to Disposable, said the sheriff. We ain't got much in this town, but what we've got, we share. Now I understand, He glanced at the sniffing comb. Some of you ain't too happy to be here. How could anything be happy to find themselves indisposable? Said Comb, breaking into sobs. It means our owners don't care about us. The chopsticks drooped a little at that. Things in the land of the lost seemed to become extra brandy, quite apart from having mouth and eyes and arms, and the panda eraser side. Now that's not true, sir, said Specs firmly. If nobody cared about you, you'd have been shoved down the waste chute and mislaid. I thought I was special to him, sobbed Comb, ignoring Specs and pulling a single black hair out from between his teeth. We've been together for years. I thought he cared. Come on now, friend, buck up, said the sheriff gently. We cheap old things know how it is. Nobody's heart broke when we disappeared. We're easy to replace, but that doesn't make us worthless. No siree, continued Specs. There's still hope, lots of it. Why, any of you might be found at any moment. I've never even been used, said Battery, looking glum. You'd think I'd be worth more to the family than this. It's Christmas, after all. I thought I'd have a job for life inside the little girl's new remote-controlled car. Well, now you know, Battery, wailed Comb. You're worthless to them. We're all worthless. What you need is a good night's sleep, sir, said the sheriff, getting back onto his arms and inviting Comb to stand up too. Everything will seem better after you've rested. You hurry along to room number 16 now. Up the stairs, first on the right. Off you go, there's a good fellow. Comb looked as though he'd like to argue, but at the moment, a horrible scream echoed down the street outside. Fingers, the gardening glove, stopped playing the piano. Specs, scissors, and even Lunchy turned sharply in the direction of the waste. What was that? Squealed Comb. What happens on the waste is best ignored, said Scissors, who was now drinking his glass of lubricant beside the bar. Just do as you're told, and if you're lucky, you'll never find out what causes the screams. Chapter 22. Adjustments. Once Comb had disappeared upstairs, Specs said, Why don't Fingers play us some Christmas carols, brighten things up? The gardening glove began to play, O Little Town of Bethlehem, but it didn't really help. Jack could tell all the things worth still thinking as he was of the scream. Now, Specs said to the remaining newcomers, the rules here are simple. Just stay within the town limits and keep cheerful. Never forget, at any minute you might be found or adjusted. Adjusted? Repeated the Battery. What does that mean? It means your value up there has changed, said the sheriff. Take your case, Battery. Nobody thinks they need you right now. But let's say they pull off the back of the little girl's remote-controlled car on Christmas Day and realize they haven't got enough batteries without you. That's when you become much more important to them. They will start looking for you harder, and while they're looking, you'll be moved to Bother It's Gone. That's the next town because you've become that much more important to your owners. In Bother It's Gone, you get your own little house, maybe even with a garden. But if you end up staying indisposable forever, folks, then I hope you'll help me make this the happiest, most vibrant town in the land of the lost. Jack now felt certain DP must be in Bother It's Gone. They needed to get out of Disposable as quickly as possible and head there instead. Alrighty, let's get you all bedded down for the night, said Specs. I'm afraid some of you will need to share a room because we're a little cramped and disposable. Nobody's as cramped as me, said Wheezy, echoing voice. Everyone looked around to see who'd spoken, but there wasn't anyone else in the bar. That you, Haley? Said Specs, grinning in the direction of the lunchbox, who looked very embarrassed. Yes, said the wheezy voice, which Jack now realized was coming from inside the tin box. Can't I come out for a bit, please? It's so dark in here and it smells of egg sandwich. Nope, snapped Scissors from the bar. You stay put. Things that are lost inside things that are lost must stay lost in the things that were lost. That's the law. Jack looked at the Christmas pig, but he didn't seem to have understood this any more than Jack had. But it's horrible in here, wailed the voice. It won't be forever, the lunchbox told her tummy. Huh, said Scissors, with a cruel smile. Don't kid yourself. There's probably a nice new lunchbox waiting under the Christmas tree for your owner right now. Pink with unicorns on the lid. I suspect. You think she'll bother looking for an old tin like you once she's got something nice and new and plastic? With a sob, Lunchbox jumped off the 2 chairs and clattered away up the stairs toward the bedrooms, while the wheezy voice inside her said, Ouch, ouch, you're shaking me around. That wasn't kind, Scissors, said Specs in a low voice. Kind? Spat Scissors. It's the truth. Things need to know their place. That's how we all stay out of trouble. He poured the last drops of lubricants over the screw holding him together, then stalked out of the bar on his sharp points into the swirling snow. Specs sighed, then told each new thing which number room they were to sleep in. One by one, the things headed up the stairs until only Jack and the Christmas pig were left. Now Specs seemed to notice them for the first time. We don't usually get things as new as you and disposable, he said, looking curiously at the Christmas pig. What's your story, pig? Oh, we were lost together, said the Christmas pig. We both fell out of our boy's pocket. What kind of boy wouldn't look for 2 fine toys like yourselves? Asked the sheriff, peering from the Christmas pig to Jack. What are you, anyway? He asked, staring into Jack's face. I'm an action figure, said Jack. Pajama boy with the power of sleep and dreams. I've got my own cartoon, he added, to make himself more important. Your own cartoon, you say? Said Specs, still gazing at Jack. Well, well, remarkable detailing. So you both fell out of your owner's pocket. Our owner's a very spoiled boy, said the Christmas pig. He doesn't care about his toys because he's got so many. As far as he's concerned, one stuffed pig is very much like another stuffed pig, one action figure much like the next. He's even been known to throw his things around and stamp on them, the Christmas pig added, with half a glance at Jack, who scowled. Dearie me, I've heard there are such children, said Specs sadly. Back in my day, children had fewer toys and treasured them. We'd never have seen such fine specimens as yourselves here in olden times. Let me walk you up to your room, Specs went on. You won't mind sharing since you know each other already. He led them upstairs and then along a dark, windowless upstairs corridor with numbered doors on either side. As they passed number 23, the door opened a crack and the tin lunchbox peered out. Am I being adjusted? She whispered. Don't look like it, Lunchy, said Specs. We normally hear about adjustments earlier in the day than this. The lunchbox sighed and closed her door again. Poor thing, said Specs quietly as they walked on down the corridor, finding it hard to settle in. Sheriff Specs, said Jack suddenly. He had to make absolutely sure that DP wasn't here, so he ignored the warning look the Christmas pig was giving him. Have you seen another toy pig here in Disposable? He's around the same height as the pig, but he's just got buttons for eyes and his ears are lopsided. A pig with button eyes and lopsided ears? Said Specs, pausing in the darkness to peer at Jack again. No, son, I can't say I've seen any pig matching that description. Jack was disappointed but not really surprised. Specs pushed open the cracking door of bedroom 20. Chapter 23. The Plan. The moment Specs had gone, the Christmas pig rounded on Jack. What did you ask him about DP for? Because that's why we're here, to find him, said Jack. Isn't it obvious he can't be here in Disposable? Why would you draw attention to us like that? And what was all that about having your own cartoon? The Christmas pig added angrily. Well, Pajama Boy is a stupid name, said Jack, just as crossly. And there has to be a reason a factory made an action figure. Why would anyone make a plastic boy in pajamas? I only hope Specs doesn't tip off the loser that there is an action figure around here who's acting a lot like a living boy who's lost a cuddly pig, said the Christmas pig. If the loss adjusters start asking other toys whether they've ever heard of Pajama Boy and his cartoon, we're really going to be in trouble. We mustn't do anything else to draw suspicion to ourselves while we're thinking up a plan. As Jack couldn't think of a good retort to this, he sat down on the double bed, which made the mattress spring creak, and looked around. The room was lit by a single candle, and the wallpaper was peeling. Cobwebs stretched across the finding hole in the ceiling. Clearly, nobody had been found in this room for a very long time. Meanwhile, the Christmas pig had moved to the cracked window and was staring down into the snowy street. Jack was far too worried about DP to sleep, so after a while, he got up and joined the Christmas pig at the window. Snow was still falling thickly into the dark street outside. Scissors and the horses were gone. Christmas pig? Said Jack after a long stretch of silence. Said the Christmas pig. What does enlivening mean? Is it like the waking up you told me about? That's it, said the Christmas pig, still looking down into the dark, snowy street. And it happens when human feelings rub off on things. It's not really rubbing off, said the Christmas pig. The feelings come inside us. Enlivening is what changes us from fabric and beans and fluff, or metal and wood and plastic into something more. It can take a thing years to be fully enlivened, but sometimes it comes all at once. That's the way it happened to me today in the toy shop. Holly and your grandpa were discussing which pig to take home to you, and when they chose me, I was enlivened. That's when I began to mean something. The enlivening is when we truly understand what we are made to do. Is that why you want to belong to Holly? Asked Jack. Because she chose you? Yes, said the Christmas pig, after a little hesitation. That's what... But just then, noises in the street below made them both peer back out of the window. Someone's coming, said Jack, scared. He could see more black hats at the end of the street. Were they coming to find the thing that shouldn't be here? 3 new lost adjusters, a razor, a chisel, and a penknife were coming down the street, each of them driving a funny-looking sledge or carriage, an old slipper pulled by a clockwork mouse, a shoebox dragged by a fuzzy toy dog, and a wooden cart with wheels, which was being pulled along by 2 elephant ornaments, one made of marble and one of brass. 3 passengers, a bus pass, a key, and a passport sat in each of the vehicles, behind the lost adjusters who was driving. As Jack and the Christmas pig watched, the carriages stopped beneath the lanterns outside the salon, and Sheriff Specs came bustling out onto the street to greet them. Slowly and carefully, the Christmas pig opened the window. It gave a little squeak, but fortunately, the new arrivals were making too much noise down below to hear it, and now Jack and the Christmas pig were able to hear what Specs and the lost adjusters were saying. "Howdy, friend," cried Specs. "I was expecting you an hour ago." "We got held up. There's a new checkpoint," said the penknife, who wore a furry black hat. "Haven't you heard? Seems there's a thing down here that shouldn't be in the land of the lost at all." "Shiver my screws, you don't say," gasped Specs. "When's the last time that happened?" "I can't recall it ever happening," said Penknife. "You seen anything acting oddly, Specs?" "Well, now," said Specs slowly. "Funny you should say that. I was just talking to a pair of toys who I thought was acting a mite oddly." Jack and the Christmas pig exchanged frightened glances. "Then you'd better contact captors at once," said Penknife sternly. "The loser will eat you as well as them if it turns out they're the things that shouldn't be here. Anyway, here you are. 3 new citizens for disposable from Bother It's Gone." "Or you 3, he shouted rudely at the passengers sitting in the vehicles. "Out." Now, said Specs as the bus pass, key, and passport all climbed down into the street where they stood huddled together looking miserable. "There's no need to treat them rough just because they've been adjusted." "I'm in a hurry," snapped Penknife. "It's the usual story for these 3. They've all been replaced up there, so the trouble they caused is over. But I've got an order to adjust 3 of yours. Here." He handed Specs his list. "Pokey," Specs read out loud. I had a hunch she wouldn't be with us long. Fingers." "Oh dear," said Specs sadly. "We'll miss her at the piano. And bless my notepads, Lunchy too. The moms realized her little girl's lost inhaler is inside her," said Penknife. "The girl's got asthma. The mom's keen to find that lunchbox now." Jack suddenly gripped the Christmas pig's soft arm. "What?" whispered the pig. "We could hide inside lunchbox and go to the next town." "What if they make lunchbox open at the checkpoint?" said the Christmas pig. I don't know," Jack admitted, frightened at the prospect. "But what if Specs reports us to captors?" The Christmas pig thought for a few seconds. His snout crinkled up, then said, "All right, but leave the talking to me, and don't mention having a cartoon. Take the blanket off that bed," he added. "It's cold out there. I told you should have put on something warmer." "I'm fine," snapped Jack. But when the Christmas pig had turned his back, Jack sneaked the blanket off the bed and followed. Chapter 24. Lunchbox. Jack and the Christmas pig crept out of their room and back along the dark corridor, the pig holding his belly tight to muffle the sound of his beans. until they reached door number 23. Jack knocked softly, and the old tin lunchbox opened it. "Do you mind if we come in?" asked the Christmas pig. "Not at all," Lunchbox said politely, though she sounded surprised. Lunchbox's room was quite as dark, as shabby as the one they'd left, and even smaller. It looked over the back of the saloon, across many low wooden houses of disposable. Snow was still falling heavily past the window. "Good news," the Christmas pig told Lunchbox. "The adjusters have just arrived. If you can prove you've got an inhaler inside you, they're going to take you out of disposable." "Well, of course I can prove it," cried Lunchbox joyfully, and she let her lid fall open. Sure enough, inside sat a glum-looking inhaler who said in a woozy voice, "If I'm the reason we're being adjusted, why can't I—" But she didn't finish her question because the Christmas pig had just jumped into the lunchbox beside her and covered her mouth with his trotters. Jack squeezed inside too. It was very cramped, and he could smell the egg sandwiches. "That's extremely rude," said Lunchbox's shocked voice from above them. "You can't just walk in without an invitation." "Shut your lid," said the Christmas pig fiercely, "or we'll tell them you offered to smuggle us to the next town, and you'll be checked out onto the waste for helping surplus." "Get out, get out," cried the lunchbox, jumping up and down as she tried to dislodge them. But Jack and the Christmas pig clung on. "I'll tell them you jumped in and tried to make me smuggle you." "It'll be our word against yours," said the Christmas pig. "And what's more, if you don't help us, my action figure friend here will break this inhaler. And if the inhaler's broken, you'll never be adjusted. Drama Boy's got remarkably fine fingers, you know, perfect for breaking things." Even though the whole idea of getting inside the lunchbox had been Jack's, he now felt both frightened and guilty. He couldn't help feeling sorry for the lunchbox, and he definitely didn't want to break the inhaler. He was also shocked at how mean the Christmas pig was being to these poor things. But before he could say any of this, there was a knock on the door. "Lunchy!" came Old Speck's voice from outside in the corridor. At once, Lunchbox slammed her lid shut, leaving Jack and the pig squashed together in the dark with the inhaler. "Yes," they heard Lunchbox say in a quavering voice. "Good news, you're being adjusted." "Oh," came Lunchbox's muffled voice. Wonderful." "You all right, dearie? You don't sound that pleased." "No, I am. I'll just miss you, Specs." "Well, now," said the sheriff, sounding touched. "Ain't that sweet? But you'd better hurry. The adjusted team's running late." The lunchbox's lid was a little bit warped, which was lucky as it let in enough air for Jack to breathe, not to mention a tiny ray of light. Squashed together inside the dark tin, Jack and the Christmas pig felt the lunchbox hopping downstairs into the bar. Lynchy's tin bottom made such a rocket, crossing the wooden floor, that Jack felt safe to whisper to the Christmas pig, who still had his trotters clamped over the inhaler's mouth. There was no need to threaten her like that. "Do you want to find DP or not?" "Of course I do," said Jack. "But you're horrible," says the boy who tried to pull off my head, said the Christmas pig. "Stopping going on about that. I've said I'm sorry." The lunchbox kept bouncing along, and Jack knew they'd reached the street when they heard the paint knight's voice quite close by. "You there, lunchbox? You ride in my wagon, as you're biggest. Here, Chisel, help her up." No, I can manage," said Lunchbox, sounding scared. Jack guessed she didn't want any of the lost adjusters to feel how heavy she was, when she was only supposed to have an inhaler inside her. She made several little jumps, then finally managed to land with her clunk inside the wooden wagon. "Sorry I'm late," came a new voice. "I'm so pleased to be going. Now that you haven't been kind, Specs. Very kind. But I won't miss sharing a room with Hanky. He hasn't washed since he got here." "Poor fella," said the sheriff sadly. "He's given up. Some things do when they haven't been found for years. Well, good luck, Pokey. Goodbye, Fingers. Goodbye, Lunchy. We'll miss you." "So long, Specs," called Penknife. "Mind you contact captures about those toys now." The wooden wagon moved off. Jack could hear the footsteps of the two heavy elephants crunching in the snow, the buzz of the clockwork mouse, and the occasional yap of the fuzzy dog. "I'm going to let go of you now," the Christmas pig whispered to the inhaler. "But if you scream or give us away, we'll make sure you get thrown onto the waste with us." The inhaler gave a little puff, which seemed to be her way of agreeing, and the Christmas pig let her go. She drew a long, wheezy breath, then whispered, "You're both very rude and nasty, but it's also nice to see something apart from inside of this tin, so hello and welcome." The three carriages moved on for what felt like at least an hour, and Jack was getting quite tired of the smell of egg sandwiches when they heard a voice from up ahead. "Halt!" The wooden wagon trundled to a stop. Jack and the Christmas pig looked at each other, and Jack could tell from the expression in the pig's little black plastic eyes that he too was scared. "Documents," said the rasping voice. They heard the shuffling of papers. "One Pokemon card, Pokey. Owners realized could be valuable." "Check," said the cruel voice. "One gardening glove, Fingers. Owner can't find new ones as comfortable." "Check." "One lunchbox, Lunchy. Owners remembered there's an inhaler inside her." Something banged hard on the side of Lunchbox, who let out a yelp of pain. "You in there, inhaler?" snarled the voice. "Yes," called the inhaler. "Check," said the cruel voice. "All right, you can proceed. Keep your eyes peeled, though, Penknife. We're on high alert. I suppose you've heard there's something down here that shouldn't be." "Yes, any description yet?" asked Penknife. "Not yet," said the cruel voice. "But I've never seen the loser so angry." "You've seen him?" said the Penknife nervously. "Oh yes," said the cruel voice. "He told me the night for miracles and lost causes won't last forever. Once it's over, finders keepers." "What does that mean?" asked Penknife. "No idea," snarled the cruel voice. "Just keep watch for anything acting strangely." With that, the wooden cart rolled on again. "He dented me," Lunchy complained to Penknife. "Well, that's Hammer for you," said Penknife. "Never looks when he can bash." He raised his voice to address all three passengers. "You lot might as well get comfy and sleep, if you can. We've got a long way to go." The cart now started to move uphill. Jack, who found himself first to the back of the lunchbox, managed to curl up in a corner, wrapped in the blanket he'd brought from Disposable, with his face lying against the Christmas pig's soft head. It wasn't at all like curling up with DP, but it was comfier than leaning against the cold tin wall.